Hello, this is Christopher Chesterman with my reflections on Douglas Winiarski's article, Jonathan Edwards' Enthusiast, which basically chronicles the level of enthusiasm Jonathan Edwards had for the revivals of the Great Awakening. The article is a little long for a standard journal article, and I found the pages that were 3/4 or more just of footnotes a little bit tedious and unnecessary. Another aspect I found that was over the top was 10 pages about Ebenezer Gay, a staunch opponent of the revivals and Edwards' participation in them. But after conducting my research, I found out it was more important for the context of the opposition because there wasn't as much of it and it didn't gain a lot of credibility with the masses. But how they were opposed and the degree of their opposition is important. This can be exemplified in Richard Bushman's collection primary sources related to the Great Awakening, and he has a great deal of resources before, especially during, as that's the focus of the book, and even after with regards to effects. And within his chapters, he even has a small section for the opposition, which is only about three sources. There's a letter of opposition, the Connecticut anti-itinerant laws, and another commentary by a group of pastors. Only three primary sources and several hundred pages. So I thought that was very telling of the research. Additionally, Winiarski's original article that I found interesting was that Edwards seemed to be more local. He seemed to focus on his congregation and the surrounding area, and that when Whitefield came to visit, he was happy to have him there. He was happy to participate in Whitefield's message giving and invite other pastors as well as travel with them to certain locations. But he never ventured further than his parish, a neighboring parish, or neighboring colonies. He never went very far away, and I thought that was very telling of his involvement. He wanted to stay close to his roots, his congregation, because later on he found the emotions to be a little bit exaggerated and he wanted to make sure that the conversions were real. So he would stay and minister and disciple those who were newly converted to make sure that the conversion was real and true on his part as well as on the part of the converted. Uh, Additionally, Winiarski's article discusses the demographic being mostly young people that were carried away, and part of the opposition was the revivals catering to their emotional states. They were young and impressionable and could get carried away very easily. And this is explained by Timothy Hall's book, Contested Boundaries, Itinerancy, and the Making of the Religious World, in that there are a lot of new things happening economically and socially, especially with the printed word and trade, where a lot of younger people were getting more involved in the dissemination of information as well as the participation in new economic opportunities. And so new things were appealing to the young people. They had a different schedule. They were moving about more, traveling more. So if they could hear somebody that was coming to them, then that made a much greater impact than just going to a certain place at a certain time every week. And also the difference in style would have appealed to them. All the newness about it appealed to them. And so they all congregated together. And Edwards was smart. He used this to his advantage by staying in his location. He could look at what was being done to convert these people, to have these meetings, and adapt his style of preaching to what his congregants and their visitors wanted to hear. And this becomes the context for Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. It was a planned sermon based on what was happening in his area, around his area, what the other ministers were saying. And so he focused on a different topic in order to have a profound effect on the audience as a whole. And the effects of the Great Awakening have been debated, but there is a very interesting article in actually 1930 by the New England Quarterly that discovered that the vast majority of churches, at least the ones that we have records for, had a severe decline in confessions of immorality after the Great Awakening. Not just right after, but years after. And it does comparison of before and after. For example, at Harwich, in 17 years before, there were 22 confessions. In 17 years after, there were 7. So he went from 17 before to 17 after. Each church has a different date range, but all of them that experienced revivals had a significant decline. So I thought that was very telling as far as the effect and especially long-term effects of the Great Awakening as well as Edwards' participation. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed this reflection.